Hello, we're going to work with the brush tool and the pencil tool for this little video, and we're going to talk about some of the characteristics and how you can set them for working on doing your logo project. Okay, so we're going to start with the brush tool. Both these are on the toolbox right here. The brush tool is right here. You might have to click and hold down on the shaper tool to find the pencil tool. I don't think it's the top one by default, but it's there. Okay, so we're going to start with the brush tool. This is a free-form drawing tool. It's really made just to let you make shapes, make strokes, and fill them if you want to for your logo. Okay, now there are some panels that affect the characteristics of your stroke as you draw for this. And obviously it's laying down anchor points. You can see them right here. There's quite a few of them. The more curves and the more you change direction with your mouse, the more anchor points it's going to lay down. Another thing about the brush tool and the pencil tool, if you double click them right on them, it comes up with a box that is going to give you some options as far as how true to the actual path that you draw with your hand on the mouse you want this stroke to be. If you push this blue dot towards the smooth end of the scale right here, it's going to smooth out what you actually draw and give you sort of a facsimile of close to what you draw. Okay, but it's going to smooth it out and it's not going to be exact. If you bring this down towards the end, the accurate end, it's going to be exactly what you draw, and you may or may not want that. You may have a shaky hand, or you may have it may be tough to follow the exact outline, say maybe of a map or something, and you might want this. By default it's set in the middle. Okay, so we can look at that another time. If I'm going to draw like a heart shape, but I just want something simple, in fact I'll do one, and I want to try to keep just sort of a very stylized heart. You know, that might work fine. That's the smooth version. Now that's not exactly what I drew. Okay, but if I double click this and I take this all the way down to exactly what I drew, I might get something that I don't want, perhaps, maybe, and it's okay, but you can see it's got more wiggles, and some of the curves have sort of straight parts in them, and it's a little choppy. Okay, but it's up to you what you want to do with your logo. Okay, so we're working with this, and let's take these out and go back to the stroke panel and a couple other panels that have an effect on the way our stroke or the path looks that we draw when we use the brush tool. Okay, so if I'm going to do a sun, I've got a company that does vacations to the beach. Okay, and I'm going to start drawing this, and by default I've sort of got an artistic brush set that is influencing how this turns out to look. Okay, now this stroke right here, in fact I'm going to just take this whole thing, and a lot of times I think your default is probably set for one of these calligraphic brushes up here. Okay, this stroke is really thicker than when I draw with the default settings on the brush. Okay, that stroke is really thicker than 1 point. Okay, you can work with the stroke panel. You can select this and make this smaller than 1 point, like a half a point or even a quarter of a point, and that's going down to where that really is like maybe just 1 point right there. Okay, it's pretty small, and that's a little more accurate maybe if you're working just with the stroke panel and you just want to work with the stroke panel, which is really fine. Okay, there is a brush panel. It's under the window menu, and it's got a few options on here that you can choose. There's a few calligraphic brushes, which means that this is the point of the brush that you're using, and this brush, when you draw with it, will sort of take on a thick and thin effect. Okay, and let me get this back up to a point and maybe we can see this a little better. It's not doing that now, but sometimes, depending on what you draw, like this, if I create more of a shape with that calligraphic brush, it's going to have sort of a thick and thin quality to it. Okay, now so that has an effect as well. If I select my sun and I go to the artistic brush, this is another sort of effect that I get, and this is considered a filled shape, even though it doesn't maybe display a stroke color around the entire thing, but that is actually a filled shape, and I believe is going to fill with solid black if I choose to do so. Okay, all right, now so that's the brushes panel. The last panel that has an effect on this, and actually it displays what already has taken effect for this. It displays those characteristics right here. But it also gives you the option to make some changes here too. Okay, so I can choose a different type of brush. I can choose just a basic uniform width stroke. Okay, I can choose a calligraphic brush. I can choose a different thickness of a brush, and there's some different things I can do right there from right there. Okay, some of the settings are available right there. All right, so these are some options that you have for controlling your stroke on for using the brush tool. Okay, I'm going to go back here, set this up, and do just a cloud. Okay, and I've got something like this. Now, if I want to get rid of these little parts right here, that's too much. That's a little excess right there. I'm going to use the scissors tool and cut those things off. That's fine. Now, by default, this thing selects the entire outer, the bulk of the stroke to select. But I want the little part right here, and I want to get rid of that. Okay, so I can get rid of that. And I'm going to do the other little piece. And I don't mind having a little bit of overlap, but I don't want to have a whole lot. Okay, so there we go. And that makes me a little cloud that I can use, I don't know for what, maybe a weather, some kind of weather company or something for umbrellas or something. I don't know. Okay, so that's how to use the brush tool. The pencil tool is very similar. It also has a control as to the accuracy or the smoothness of your path that you draw with your mouse. Okay, and it works very similarly. At one time there was only one of these two tools. I believe it was the brush tool, and they've added the pencil tool, and they've got some other options underneath there that you can use with the pencil tool as you're drawing. It's more, I guess, of a drawing tool maybe than the brushes. But I like the brush, and I'd be happy to see you use this to make some shapes and objects or symbols, different little things that you want to do for your logos. I'd like to see what you do and come up with something that works for your company. All right, thanks a lot.